Do you have trouble deciding whether to fish shallow or offshore when you get to the lake? In this video, I'm going to show you how I make this decision in a short 2-hour fishing trip to put some quality fish in the boat. Let's get into it.
Here, closer to the dam on the small lake, trying to find some fish that are suspended on bait. It is early October and we still have pretty warm water temperatures, mid 70s. So there may be a few fish that are just chasing out here on shad. Definitely something that does happen this time of year. Now I want to keep them honest just for a few minutes because we don't have that much time. We're basically only giving ourselves 2 hours to catch fish out here. So I want to use my time wisely, but if I can find some fish out here that are suspended, either around like this road bed that's out here that you can see on the side imaging, or maybe just kind of out randomly in the open. There's a nice ball of bait, for example. It doesn't have any fish on it, it's just a big ball of bait. And that's something I see a lot on this lake. I actually don't find that many fish underneath the bait balls usually, but I wanted to keep them honest just for a minute. And that's exactly what I'm looking for, but we need to see fish or dots on the 2D sonar on the down imaging to let us know there's actually fish using this type of area. Definitely some really nice looking bait and fish right on the edge of this ditch. This looks really good just from a side scan perspective. You can see a few bait fish, you can see a few fish scattered about. There's a nice rocky hard spot on the right side of the screen here. There's a bait ball right there. There's a nice drop. I'm just gonna mark that bait ball just for my sake, and then I'm also gonna mark this little rocky area up here just for my sake as well. And then I'm gonna keep graphing out here a little bit where I marked earlier. I have a bunch of brush and stuff marked out in this general spot, but there was a lot of bait and there was a lot of activity going on further out here deep. And I don't know if I can actually get these fish to bite. They're out here in like 14, 15 foot of water, and there is a lot of good brush in this area. So I may try fishing for some of these fish really quick and then make my way up into that little ditch or drain and see if I can get some of those fish to bite. But there's plenty of brush. I mean, there's a really nice brush pile out here to the right, as you can see. I might just go throw a jig in some of these brush piles and then also just kind of scope around and see if I can find a few fish I might be able to catch that are suspended. But let me mark this. Oh, we don't want that, we want brush. Let me mark all this brush. I have a lot of this marked already, and I think that we should be able to catch something right here. Just as much bait fish as we're seeing on the screen, and the amount of shad in this area makes this a really, really good looking spot. Go. One. Yeah, not a bad one. There we go. Got that fish on a little prototype core tackle jig. Don't really want to show that off too much, but beautiful little fish there. Not a big one, but just a nice one on one of these brush piles. I knew they were loaded up down here, guys. You could see them all over the 2D sonar and on the down imaging. When you see that much fish, brush, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. There's gonna be some fish down there. This live scope isn't really that necessary. It just helps me line up on them a little bit better. And I was just throwing around that brush pile, and by the time I took my eyes off of it and started moving to the next one, he ate it. So maybe I need to worry less about looking at the live scope on these brush pile fish and just kind of firing over there. That's kind of usually how it works anyways. When I'm trying to focus on fishing them with the live scope and stuff like that, a lot of times it just doesn't turn into any fish catches. But sometimes there's some random bigs that just kind of roam around the sides of this deal. And you can see one straight ahead of me there. Looks pretty good. If I can actually get my bait on him. See if I can get over there. Bait's falling down to him. It's kind of slow. Got a light hover rig on here. Trying to get that bait out like 60 feet. I don't think I got to him in time, unfortunately. Okay, come on, fish. You want that thing, right? 30 feet out. There's a fish on it. Come eat it. Come on. No? There's a bunch of fish right there. A bunch of bait. Got him. Good one. stay on that fish. Good one. Not very good, so I'm gonna play him easy. Oh, there we go, boys. Look at that right there. Fish the moment. Wasn't catching them offshore. Come up shallow and catch a freaking big right there. Oh, there we go, guys. 3 pounds, 11 ounces. Really nice fish right there. Catching them up shallow on a spook. When these fish are transitioning into this kind of early fall period, throwing a topwater down the bank is one of the best ways to catch really quality fish. You don't get a ton of bites, but you can get some good ones in the boat. There we go, guys. Let's get this beautiful fish back down the lake. Got the fish on the Megabass Dog X Diamante. Nice walking topwater, just pairing that with a 7'6" heavy power, moderate fast action swim jig rod and some braid. Probably not the ideal rod for throwing this, but it's the only rod I kind of had rigged up. I would have liked to have a rod with a little bit more give, maybe like crankbait rod or something. But basically what I'm fishing here is just a little secondary point leading into a major creek on this lake. This lake is not that big, so there's not really a major creek per se, but these little secondary points this time of year, especially to have a little bit of rock on them and they're shaded, can be absolutely ideal for catching fish in the topwater. All I'm doing is working that rod tip really quick, walking that bait back and forth, and I was honestly just trying to cover water as fast as I could, throwing this thing to see if I could even get a bite. Have my trolling motor on like 7 out of 10, and I'm just going down the bank fishing. This time of year, a topwater just is a good way to get big bites, and when I couldn't get those fish to go offshore, I knew that there was probably going to be a decent shallow water bite, just given the water temperatures are like 75 degrees. And honestly, this is probably not the easiest way to catch numbers right now, but for quality, it is probably the best thing I can be doing, especially with those offshore fish not really cooperating. We'll say is I'm going to, oh, there we go, another one. About to say I was gonna fish a little bit more thorough on these spots. Oh, came off, dang, not a big one. It's probably because I don't have the right rod, but I'm gonna fish a little more thorough on these high percentage areas. I was just about to say, like the, points and stuff like this. And I'm not gonna be having my trolling motor on like 7 out of 10 blowing by these places, because now that I kind of know what these fish are setting up on, especially with that second bite, I can basically get dialed in a little bit better. I wish I had a better setup honestly going for this topwater, but right now this is all I got, so we're just gonna roll with it and just fight them nice and easy. One thing that's kind of interesting to note too is that these last 2 bites I've gotten have been in open water. They haven't been around any type of laydown or log or anything like that. You can see there's all kinds of stuff in the water here, but for whatever reason these fish aren't really setting up around it, probably just because of the low light conditions we have here. So I am not really getting too beat up about trying to get my bait really tight to the cover, even though I've done that on a lot of my casts, and instead almost going for these like open water areas, just because these fish can track this bait pretty well, because the water's only 2, 3, 4 feet deep. So if they want to get it, they're just going to come get it. Golly, they're following all the way out here, dude. Look at that on the surface. That's crazy. You can see these fish that are up here. There's a bunch of fish down there too. But there's fish that are up here on the surface. You can see them on live scope. And there's like one 40 foot out. My bait just landed 40 foot on the surface. There's fish all the way up on the surface, and you see them following it and getting right underneath it and behind it. And then they will just follow it, but they won't commit to it for some reason, all the way up here on the surface. And you can see this shallow shelf I'm fishing, basically. It's what I graphed earlier. I'm thinking that the fish that are gonna commit on this topwater are gonna be way up there on that shelf. There's like 2 foot of water, and there's a bunch of fish that I was graphing earlier that are out here. They're shad and all kinds of stuff, but with this low light, I'm thinking they're gonna be at least a couple active ones, like way up there. You can see on the live scope, they're 60, 70 feet out. It gets to the point where you can barely see anything, but it's still offshore. But that little deal, you can see a couple fish even there, just chilling there, like 40 feet away from the boat. I don't know if like I would need to crank them or something, but they're only 4 feet down. So if they really wanted to come up and eat this topwater, it's clear enough where, the 1, they can see it, 2, they can hear it. And I feel like they would come up and get this thing if they really, really wanted it. But it's interesting that they're kind of just swerving it. Oh, there's one. right on cue off this offshore deal. Not a big one, but there we go. That's what I'm talking about, guys. There's some fish out here. You just got to find them with that side imaging first, off the drop, and then find that little shallow spot. Not, not a big one, but not every single fish is going to be big. But this is a sneaky little spot because it's, again, offshore enough that these fish are not going to be pressured by a lot of fishermen, but there's definitely going to be some fish down there. Got him. Good one. Real good one. Yeah, real good one. Stay on there, fish. Nice one. On the jig, lights going down. Found one brush pile I have marked over here, and you can barely see me, but got a nice one on the jig. Kind of have to do a little bit of everything this time of year, it seems like. Just caught a good one on top water, good one offshore on this brush pile, and there's a few fish here and there, but when you're fishing in October, early October, and they're not quite committed to the bank yet, you kind of have to do a little bit of everything, but that's a nice fish right there on a jig and a brush pile. Well guys, that's it for this video. There's barely any light left, so I'm gonna head back to the boat ramp. Had some fun catching them on my little prototype jig here and also on that topwater spook. The fish weren't really biting that well today. I had a buddy on the lake as well with me, and he was just catching some small ones. So it's not like they were chewing, but it's always fun getting out here, getting with the graphs for a couple of hours, and we were able to put 3 pretty good quality fish in the boat by using some standard techniques up shallow and also using your electronics offshore. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely leave a like down below, and I'll see y'all in the next video.